What is up, health enthusiasts? It's Coach Lamby here for Working Weights LLC, your guide to strength, health, and all things nutrition. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Dwayne Ulrich, aka Poppy Dwarrell.
What's up?
And today we are talking about protein digestibility. All right, Dwayne, how'd Valentine's Day go?
Man, so Valentine's Day was really cool. So my wife is amazing. She's not really she's not, butch or anything, but she's not completely a girly girl.
Mm-hmm.
So she likes getting cool stuff. I mean, one year I got her her own, my table miter saw.
Mm-hmm.
And next year I got her a table saw. She was thrilled. But this year she saw one of the knives I bought myself. And she goes, huh. And I could tell, oh yeah, she wants one.
Mm.
So I bought her a really cool knife and she was stoked. And I also got her a James Avery cross necklace, and she was stoked about that too. So that just shows her, her range of interests.
The breadth of interest. Yeah, that knife was awesome.
Yeah.
I saw it on Facebook.
Did
Damascus
she,
blade.
yeah, dude. Did she
Yeah.
post it?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's pretty stoked about it. She's pretty stoked about it.
That's a cool knife.
Pretty cool. Yep. She carries it everywhere. So ne'er-do-wells beware.
Ne'er-do-wells.
Ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah. Let me see. I forgot to pull this up. Let me see if I can find it.
So what happened in the Coach Lamby house for Valentine's Day?
So every year
I already know one thing. So, but go ahead.
Yeah. So every year for Valentine's Day, I guess I don't know how long we've been doing it, but anyway, we will make gifts for each other rather than buying stuff. I mean, we still have to buy stuff, but we make something. So this year I saw a cool video on YouTube. A guy made a bird out of silverware, out of cutlery. And Christy loves birds. And so I was like, all right, well, that's cool. So I went down to the dollar store and I bought $4 worth of some spoons and forks and knives and stuff. And I made a little bird for her.
Praise God, brother, because I thought you took those out of the drawer.
No.
I thought, she better not recognize that.
No, those are dollar store.
Okay.
Stainless steel.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that was that. And then I got some. So there's a lady up here who does face paintings and stuff. And Christy likes her. We hired her for Cynthia's birthday party last year. She's coming this year again, all that stuff. So anyway, she does balloon animals too. So Christy bought a balloon thing from her for me that was like two lovebirds on a heart. And then there was a cup of candies and stuff. So I had milk chocolate in it, which is, But
it's
yeah,
thought.
so
it's the thought that counts.
Yeah. And so we're going to, our church is having a spaghetti dinner night tonight. So we're going to go to that for Valentine's Day.
Excellent.
And yeah, so we both got Cynthia we both went to the same CVS and got Cynthia the same Valentine's Day card.
No, you did not.
Yeah.
Well, that's just unity and unison in the Lamby house. So,
yeah, it sure is.
Man, I'm so proud of y'all. That's so cool. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Good stuff. Very good.
Let me see if I can pull this article up. Here we go. Let me see. I'll have to share it. Go back to Zoom. Share the screen. Safari. All right, man. So this has been floating around the internet here for a few days. 80% of Americans test positive for chemical found in Cheerios, Quaker Oats, and something else. There was another one on a title I saw that may cause infertility and delayed puberty.
What?
Oh no. Okay. So this was a study done by a company called the Environmental Working Group, and they do a lot of damage, in my opinion, on misinforming the public on things. All right, so the title here, and this is the same title for multiple different outlets, 80% of Americans. So this chemical is called I forget what it is. Colloquian or something like that. I don't know. Let me see if I can go into my I know I took screenshots of the thing here. Uh, chlormequat.
Oh, seriously?
So the chemical is called chlormequat. Okay. So the Environmental Working Group did their own little study here, and the way that you find that people have been exposed to chlormequat is through urine samples. So the titles on these news outlets say 80% of Americans. Dwayne, did anybody come by and collect a urine sample from you?
No, no, they did not.
They didn't for me either. So that kind of tells us this 80% of Americans thing is maybe somewhat inaccurate, right?
Totally.
Because you'd have to test all of Americans to know that 80% of them would have this. Okay. Let me share the screen here on what I have. So this is the study. I pulled it up, and if you read the full text of the study and we go down to the discussion, you will see that it says urine samples collected from nearly 100 individuals. The total is 96. They had 96 urine samples.
Wow,
Okay.
that's representative of 80% of the United
Very,
States.
very representative of the whole population. And these weren't even 96 all at one time. It was 25 here, some there, and some other, in multiple years. So the latest one was 2023, and they found that the highest concentrations were in 2023. If you go on to read further down the study here, it says that their food testing results indicate chlormequat levels in some samples, including one organic oat-based product. Now, they recommend everybody goes and buy organic produce because it's not sprayed with pesticides and stuff. And so they're promoting this as well, our food supply are being sprayed with, right, all your oats and grains and everything that are making up your cereals are being sprayed with these pesticides, and that's how you're getting it. However, including one organic oat-based product, were similar to those reported in the study of naturally forming chlormequat. Okay, so thus our pre-2023 levels observed in urine could be a result of dietary exposure to chlormequat from formation via food processing and production. So this chemical naturally occurs, so to speak, during processing of food, during heating of grains. Okay,
Yes.
so they've had to admit that this chemical, although it is found in some pesticides, also happens naturally during heating of grains.
Yes.
And the levels that they found in the urine samples prior to 2023 could probably just be attributed to food processing. Now, in 2023, it was higher. And so some portion of that is probably due to the naturally this happening naturally just through the processing. And then some other portion of it could be from the fields being sprayed with this. Now, I didn't highlight it in here, but it is interesting to note in this study that the United States cereals, the grains and stuff from the United States, are not the samples that are found with the sprayed chlormequat. It's the stuff that's being imported from Europe.
Seriously.
Yes. So this same company will make claims as to like, oh, well, people have less autoimmune diseases and stuff when they eat the bread in Europe. Well, it's funny that the grains we're getting from Europe are the ones who that have this higher concentration of stuff. But anyway, current chlormequat concentrations in Europe from this study and others suggest that individual sample donors were exposed to chlormequat levels at several orders of magnitude below the reference dose.
Boom. Boom.
So,
Boom.
are we being exposed to this? Yes. It's well below what has been determined to be safe. And then so the title in that article had, issues with puberty and whatever developmental issues. Those are only from rat studies. There's no evidence that that's happening in humans.
The
So
sky is falling. The sky is
the
falling. The
sky is
sky is
falling.
falling.
Yes.
Everybody get inside.
Yeah. So
Oh, I'm
that's
so tired of that. I mean, I'm so
just
sick of
kind of
that.
just kind of what do you call it? Weather report or cleaning the news for the week. All right. So let's get into this
Man.
protein digestibility thing that we have here. So we've already we already did podcast on this. It was the first one.
Yep, yep, yep.
It was kind of long. We also had issues with the video, so there's not video to go along with it. So I can see how maybe this could still be confusing to some people, but it is super prevalent on the internet today. I also notice that this is kind of an issue with a few of my clients. So we talked about this last week. We thought, yeah, this would be a good topic to go over. And
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about the difference between protein digestibility and nutrients kind of in general. We're going to discuss that a little bit too, between animal sources and plant sources. So what did you find on the internet, Dwayne?
Well, yeah. So that was our first podcast. And I was truly I mean, my mind was blown, but I was truly, I don't want to say ignorant, but not educated at all
Mm,
uh, in on the topic. So I went back and I learned a lot, and we've learned a lot since then. But I went back and I just went all the way back to the beginning and just started looking at absorption, animal based versus plant based. What are the differences? Animal based animal protein it's a little bit more efficiently absorbed. But
hmm
again, we've talked extensively about the differences between animal protein and plant protein in regards to like cholesterol and just there are some negatives to it, but it does uptake fairly more easily than a lot of plant proteins. But the difference that let me wrote it down to here is uh, the rate difference is not so much that it's oh, we've got to be doing plant protein. Unless you're just protein deficient, then plant-based proteins are fine. And then also I found that if you do more than one type of plant-based protein, then you cover more areas, and some plant-based proteins are more easily absorbed and quicker. For example, whey. I mean, like whey protein seems to be one of the faster absorbing proteins. For example, in powders, because I look at this from like working out and strength gains. But so those are the things that I looked at. I wandered off into dairy as well
hmm
with leucine and caseins, and thought, well, that's probably really not what we're talking about. But that's what I found. That's what I found is that again, basically, animal proteins are more easily absorbed at a higher rate than plant-based proteins, but not so much as it's like, oh my gosh, we have to do animal-based proteins. Like I said, unless you're protein deficient, you know, And
Yeah.
most Americans get plenty of protein per day in their diets. Unless you're like, you know, an elite athlete or somebody who's really working on their nutrition and strength and, you know, gains. Most average people get enough protein just through their regular diet.
Yeah. So I've let me see. I think I tried to streamline this episode a little bit more, and maybe we can
Because we
make
could get
this.
way off in the weeds.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
spent all that. I spent all yesterday going, what
yeah,
is that? What B12? What three? What?
the the first episode, so you guys can go back and listen to that, is a little bit more detailed. We'll talk a little bit more about the scores today than we did previously. Try streamline stuff, try to make this a little bit easy to understand. So the main thing that I think people are dealing with is the claim here is that protein and nutrients found in plant foods are less bioavailable than the ones from animal foods. And
Yeah,
so an example of this would be if I have a choice between two foods and I'm going to get 100 grams of protein from beef or 100 grams of protein from edamame, then I'm not actually getting that 100 grams of protein from the edamame because it isn't as bioavailable. It isn't absorbed as readily as the beef. So that's, I think, is kind of like the main thing that people are dealing with. You hear, it's very prevalent online. So we're going to tackle that issue and see if maybe we can uh, help people to understand what all this stuff means, right? So whenever somebody makes that claim, okay, so let's say I have a package of edamame and I have a package of ground beef. Let's say both of them say that they have 100 grams of protein in it, right? The recommendation that people are giving out online is that, well, you should go for the beef because you're not going to get all 100 grams of protein from that edamame, right? And so to support that, people will cite these two scores, the PDCAS and the DIAS.
right.
All right. So um, let me see if I can maneuver my way through all of this stuff that I have today. All right. So the first thing that I want to point out here, anyone referencing the DIAS in support of this argument does not know what they're talking about. All right, flat out, plain and simple here. Let me see. All right. Now dealing with the notion that I'm looking at the protein content on the package of food that I'm buying at the store, right? And so the claim here is that even though these two packages might say they both contain the same amount of protein, I'm not going to absorb as much from the plant source as I would from the animal source because of these amino acid scores, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I linked to this and we showed it in the first episode. This is the Code of Federal Regulations for food packaging. Let me see, I'll scroll all the way
Right,
up here.
right.
Oh, that's not what I want here. This is a long ways down. All right, Code of Federal Regulations, Part 101 for food labeling, and we are looking at Part 101.9, Paragraph C7. Come on, getting down. All right, so here we can see we're getting into calories, fat, how is fat labeled, sodium, carbohydrate, total sugars, protein. So here we are, Section 101.9, Paragraph C7. 1. A statement of the corrected amount of protein per serving as determined in paragraph C7.2 of this section, calculated as a percentage of the RDI or DRV for protein as appropriate and expressed as percent of daily value, may be placed on the label, except that such a statement shall be given if a protein claim is made for the product or if the product is represented or purportedly to be specifically for infants through 12 months or children 1 through 3 years of age. What does that mean? Okay, that means that the protein content that is to be put on the nutrition label is a statement of the corrected amount of protein per serving. All right.
Corrected.
Corrected. The percent of daily value. So sometimes you will see just a protein content. Sometimes you will see the protein in grams. Okay. And then also you will see a percentage of daily value off to the right. Now, you won't always see the percentage of daily value. The reason for this is all of this gobbledygook that was down here. Okay, so they don't have to put that percentage unless they are making a claim to the protein. So if the package says contains 25 grams of protein per serving, or contains more protein than X, or if it's for children 3 and under, that percentage has to be on the label. Okay, otherwise it doesn't have to be there, which can be somewhat a little nerve-wracking for me. Anyway, okay, so what does a corrected amount of protein per serving mean? Well, they define it in paragraph C7.2. The corrected amount of protein gram per serving for foods represented or purported for adults and children 1 or more years of age is equal to the actual amount of protein grams per serving multiplied by the amino acid score corrected for protein digestibility. This goes on. So what that means is that the score, the number that is on the package is the amino acid corrected score.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So I have 2 packages. One is edamame and the other one is beef. They both say they have 100 grams of protein. Those are the corrected for scores. That is the amount that you are absorbing.
Yes.
Okay. So the claim here that you won't be getting all of the protein listed on that nutrition info from the plant source is false. It is true that the animal sources are more easily digested. However, the information that is available to the public are the corrected for scores. Okay.
Yes.
Now, people get their panties in a twist because the nutrition label uses the PDCAS score and not the DIAS. So let's get into this for a little bit here. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So,
and you know, that's something that label information is, nobody knows that. I mean, if you know that, you're
correct.
less than 1% of the population of the United States. Nobody knows that stuff.
Correct. So I have this here. This is another paper. Everything's going to be in the links here. All right, amino acid scoring patterns. The amino acid scoring patterns in use at the present time determine the effectiveness with which absorbed dietary nitrogen can meet the indispensable amino acid requirements at the safe level of protein intake. Okay. The effectiveness with which absorbed dietary nitrogen can meet the indispensable amino acid requirements. So people get their, like I said, their panties in a twist because the DIAS is a quote unquote better scoring system. And the claim behind that is that, well, the DIAS takes into account these individual amino acids. Okay. No, the PDCAS also takes into account the individual amino acids. The way that the score is multiplied is the difference between the two. People will also complain when someone like myself argues. Let me see, because I have these from the first episode that we did. So we went through, remember, and we did these whole percentages.
Yeah, yeah.
Grams and percentages. Okay, so the way that the Code of Regulations and the daily value that they recommend to get this percentage, right? So how much does the protein content in this package of chicken contribute per serving towards your daily value, right? And so that's expressed here as this percentage. And so if you wanted to figure that out, all you would do, so the daily value is 50 grams of protein. 50 divided by the protein per serving would be 19, gives us 2.6. So you'd have to have 2.6 servings of this chicken to get your 50 grams of protein for the day. So then we take that 38% times 2.6, and that gives us 98.8. So 50 grams of protein from this chicken would give us 98.8% of our daily values of these individual amino acids, as corrected for by the PDCAS. Okay. And we had a whole bunch of them. We did them with all these ground beefs and everything.
Yep.
And we did them for beans, right? So sometimes you'll be able to find some beans that have these. So 50 divided by 8 equals 6.25. 13 times 6.25 gives us 81.25. So if you got 50 grams of protein from just this can of beans, you would be at 81.25% of your daily value for your amino acids, the individual amino acids, right? And these are the essential amino acids that we're talking about.
Right.
So let's go back to this. So people will complain when someone like me makes the case, well, hey, all I have to do is eat whatever 20% more protein from these beans, which is not a lot in terms of how much food this is per day, right?
Right.
To get all of my amino acids. And then I have the pictures from Chronometer where I showed that. We'll go over that.
Yeah.
But people will complain, well, the daily, the RDA is the bare minimum, right? Okay. The RDA is not the bare minimum. The safe level of intake, as indicated above, is set at 1.96 times the standard deviation above the estimated average requirement. Okay. So they went out and they figured what is the average, the estimated average requirement of protein that 95% of the people are going to get and not become protein deficient, right? This is the safe level. This is how much you need to eat.
Right.
And then they added 2 times the standard deviation to that. So understanding that this 50 grams of protein, while many of us still think that this protein requirement is too low, is not the bare minimum. This is 2 times the standard deviation above the bare minimum, right? And this is just required for adults for maintenance. That doesn't mean you're gaining muscle mass, all this stuff. This is just for maintenance. Okay. So clearing out some of these claims. This is the report from the FAO. This is where the DS basically came into being known, and how they're recommending that the DS is a better score to use than the PDCAS. Now, the difference between these two things, gosh, I hope it's in this one. All right. So remember how I said anyone who cites the DS in support of this argument doesn't know what they're talking about? So the formula for the DS, as we can see here, so the DS percentage, that would be the score, is equal to 100 times the milligram of digestible dietary indispensable amino acid in 1 gram of the dietary protein divided by milligrams of the same dietary indispensable amino acid in 1 gram of the reference protein. Do you honestly think that the guy who made a 5-minute video on YouTube knows what that means?
No.
He doesn't have a clue.
No.
Here are the formulas. All right. So now the claim for the DS here, right, is that the DS takes into account these individual amino acids. The PDCAS doesn't. That's not true. Okay. So the PDCAS is the ratio of indispensable amino acid limiting. I'm going to define that in test protein compared to reference protein corrected for fecal protein digestibility. The DS is the ratio of indispensable amino acid limiting in test protein compared to reference protein corrected for ileal digestibility of indispensable amino acid limiting. So what the limiting indispensable amino acid is we have these essential amino acids, and they're essential because our body can't make them from other things. We have to consume them. So that makes them essential or indispensable.
Essential nutrients. Yeah.
Right. So these are essential or indispensable, and these are the amino acids that we are particularly concerned with in getting into our diet. Okay. And we have ways to figure out how much you need. And we're going to talk about the differences between these two. Now, PDCAS, we can already see, does account for indispensable amino acids. It accounts for each one of those amino acids. All right. What they mean by limiting indispensable amino acid is that these are how the scores are figured. So all these different types of ingredients or foods are going to have varying levels of these indispensable amino acids. I'm going to call them essential amino acids from now on so people don't get confused. And what they do is they find which one of these essential amino acids is the lowest concentration within that particular food. Okay. So for edamame, I think it would probably be cysteine is going to be lower than it is in the beef. So these two individual foods are going to have different scores, but the scores are based on different essential amino acids, right? Which one of the essential amino acids in there is the lowest? And that's what the score is based on. It's not based on the whole gamut of essential amino acids. It's based on the smallest one. Okay. They then take that indispensable or essential amino acid, whichever one is the lowest one. The PDCAS is multiplied by total protein in the fecal matter. Okay.
Yep.
And the DAS is multiplied by that same amino acid at the ileum. So the place where the small intestine transfers into the large intestine. Okay. That's the ileal. And the reason that they changed from measuring fecal matter to the ileal is that there seems to be an effect on the total nitrogen concentration. So protein we look at from a nitrogen concentration standpoint. So once it passes out of your small intestine, goes into your large intestine, total protein, total nitrogen, there seems to be some effect there, but we're not actually absorbing all of the nutrients at that point. Okay. So that's why they think the DS is a little bit better of a way to look at this. Also, we're looking at the concentration of that limiting amino acid before we eat the food, and then when it gets to your large intestine. So how much of that amino acid is absorbed through that process in your small intestine? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So these scores that they're given for the PDCAS and the DS is based on 1 gram of protein for each of these foods, and then how much each individual amino acid contributes towards what you should get per gram. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the reference pattern of essential amino acids in milligrams per gram of protein for humans at different age groups. This is something that the DS has over the PDCAS as well, as we have different age groups in here now. Or well, let me say rather more age groups. Okay. So over the age of 3, that's the line that we're concerned with right here, the bottom line. And we can see for all these different amino acids, they give us some values, milligrams per gram of protein. So how much of amino acids within your food per 1 gram contributes towards meeting these requirements, this reference pattern, is the score that the PDCAS or the DS gets. Okay. And no one has to remember this. I'm just going through this to show you just how dumb these people are on the internet. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So we're going to scroll up here a little bit. All right. Now we're going to look at the recommended intake of indispensable amino acids. And this is based in milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day for humans at different age groups. Okay. So splitting it up into all these different age groups based on how much you weigh will give you an idea of how much of each of these amino acids, essential amino acids, you need to be getting on a daily basis. That makes sense?
Yes.
Okay.
It's in the box in milligrams divided by kilograms body weight.
In milligrams per kilograms per body weight of day. Let me see. All right. So I currently weigh 185 pounds. We want to get to kilograms. So I'm going to divide that by 2.2, and that gives us 84 kilos. So I weigh 84 kilos. All right. So if I want to figure out how much histidine I need per day, I'm over the age of 18. So I'm going to take the milligrams. So 10 times 84 kilograms divided by 1,000 because it's milligrams. So we're going to get grams. So 0.84 grams of histidine per day, right? We're going to come over here. We're going to go to my chronometer. Now, if you have something, these apps are fantastic. This is another argument I get online is these apps don't account for all this amino acid scores and blah, blah, blah. All right. So what did we come up with here? 0.84. All right. According to the DS, our nutrition labels are based on the PDCAS, right? All of these apps get their information based on the nutrition labels that are provided on the package.
Right.
So according to Chronometer here, I should be getting 0.9 grams of histidine per day. Is that in line with the DS?
Pretty close.
Pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Now,
yeah.
I can assure you the rest of these fall right in line with what the DS is recommending. Okay. So if I use an app like Chronometer, I also know that there's another app called Macro Factor that has all of these amino acids printed out. Now, the problem that you may run into is as you start importing your foods into here for the day, not all companies, not all laboratories have all the information on the amino acids. Sometimes you just don't have the information available to you. And it just is what it is, right? We also have some information that people have gone and done, and they've compared the DS for certain foods versus other foods. So something like we're talking about edamame, which is a soybean.
Mm-hmm.
We can see that the DS for that is 84.6, and the PDCAS is 85. All right.
Oh my gosh, that is a massive difference.
Oh my gosh.
Not.
Okay. So we're seeing there are not huge differences here between these two scores, okay, in the way they configure. The main difference is the multiplication of the total protein in the fecal matter versus that same limiting amino acid at the ileum. Okay.
Right.
So you can get some different scores for different things based on that. And the DS also provides us with some better ideas of essential amino acid requirements at different stages of life. All right. So that is the difference between those two scores. So utilizing the information that is provided to you on the nutrition label is more than sufficient. And especially if you're using an app like Chronometer, where you get to see the breakdown of all those things, is more than sufficient for you to determine if you're meeting your requirements for the day or not.
Right.
Okay.
I agree. I agree. If you're walking down the aisle of the grocery store with your calculator and trying to run your formulas, you're wasting your time.
Right. And we're going to get to some practical stuff here at the end. Oh man, did I lose my thing here? In how to go about doing this for your daily life, but I'm just going over this so that you guys can see anyone using the DS to support their recommendations that you have to consume animal products and not plant products because of protein digestibility is just full of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely full of it.
It's what I was saying earlier, is just like the difference is so minute that it's just not worth it.
It's just not enough. The main difference comes in the life stages and the developmental stages. That's where the main difference comes from. All right.
Right.
Dealing with these people who are giving these recommendations online on the DS, another place where they fall short is they'll take those protein contents on the package, right? In order to show you that you're not going to get all of the protein from those plant sources, they'll take that 100 grams of protein and they'll multiply it by the DAS scores for each of those things. So someone will go and look up the DAS for soybeans, like I showed, and then
Mhm.
they'll look up the DAS for beef, and I think beef has a DAS of like 115 or something. Okay,
Mhm.
so they take 100 grams of protein and they'll multiply that DAS 115, and they'll come out with 115. And then they'll take the DAS for the soybeans, which was like 85, and you'll get 85. And so they'll go, so see, you're actually digesting 115 grams of protein from the beef because it has the DS score of 115, and you're only digesting 85 grams of protein from the edamame because it has a DS of 85. Okay, well, here's the problem when you start using the DS that way. You cannot multiply. So if a food has a score, and this is an advantage that the DS provides us over the PDCAS as well. The PDCAS is truncated to a 1 or 100%, whereas the DS will go above that. So we get scores of 115, 130, 135, stuff like that. If you are trying to take and use the DS to find total protein content, so if I was to look at that package of chicken, right, and I want to find out, well, how much of this chicken do I actually need to eat to get 100%? If the chicken has a score above 115, I can't use that 115 or above 100%. I can't use that score to multiply by the total protein to get how much protein I'm supposed to be eating because it's artificially inflating that number, right? So I've already said the beef has 100 grams of protein in it, and that's scored at PDCAS of 1, which would be 100%. So the score, the protein content in beef before we put a score to it would be 100 grams. We put a score to it, it's still 100 grams. If you were to take that 100 grams before scoring and then try to multiply that by 115, you're suddenly, now you had 100 grams of protein before. Now you suddenly have 115 grams of protein. Where did the extra 15 grams of protein come from? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but it doesn't make
Okay.
sense that people try to do that. They don't understand the
They
system.
don't
So
they don't understand how these scores are used. Okay. So
yeah,
where the extra scoring comes in is when we're looking at combining foods together. Now, if I ate something where I'm having beef and edamame together, the edamame has a lower score for certain things. Let's say it's cysteine, right? And the beef has a higher score. So by combining the two and using the DS for both of them, I can actually get a better idea of how much that limiting amino acid I'm looking at within the mixed meal, right? So
right,
the DS allows us to combine foods and give us a better score, whereas the PDCAS, if we were truncated at a 1, we really couldn't see that we were getting an extra bonus effect from those amino acids in that animal-based food, right?
right.
Or if we take beans and rice, yeah, so black beans here. Now we're going to talk about total protein for the day, but black beans you would find would be, let's see, what's the lowest one? That would be cysteine, right?
Yeah,
123%.
123. Yeah.
Versus rice, cysteine is 272. If I consume enough of each of these, I can meet my total amount of amino acids for the day just by
Yes.
eating one or the other. But
Yes.
people don't do that. We eat mixed meals. We eat beans and rice together. So if I combine the effect that rice has for its cysteine, it has a higher concentration of cysteine
Yep.
than does the beans, I'm getting a higher level of cysteine, right? So that's what the DS allows us to do. It does not mean that you're getting 115 grams of protein from beef when the package says 100. You're getting 100
Right.
grams. Okay. So
Right.
no matter what food it is, whatever the package says, that's the amount of protein you're getting.
Right. Right. And one of the things we just looked at both of those numbers, when you compare the black beans to the rice, the combination of those two in a meal is what I was talking about early on. If you eat several different types of plant-based proteins, you're going to cover everything, and that's normally what we do in a mixed meal.
Yeah.
You know, I eat beans and I eat rice, and don't eat massive amounts of them, but I know that I'm going to cover all my bases on that.
You're getting them together.
Yep.
And we can do a little experiment here and show just what that effect has. Let's look at how these scores are figured out. So I said this in the first episode. Most of these scores that we have for these foods are not done in human beings. For the PDCAS, most of it's done in rats, and they're measuring the amount of nitrogen beforehand and then at the end in the poop. For the
Right.
DAS, they're using pigs. Pigs' digestive system are a little bit closer to human beings. They're fairly close. And we can also drill a hole in the side of the pig and put a probe in there. Not a lot of people are going to want to sign up to do for that, right?
Nope. Nope.
All right, so we can see here a big long list of foods, all right, and their DS scores and values, and we can see that the vast majority of these are pigs. We have a rat here. Most of it is pigs. We have some rats, pigs, rats, pigs, rats, pigs. You didn't see human being on there so far, did you?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no.
So DS
They
scores are good.
contacted me about that, but I wasn't
Yeah.
about the probe. I'm just not about the probe.
Yeah. So that's that. All right. And then I gotta find where it is. I think it's in my Safari here. All right. The idea that plants are incomplete proteins because they don't have all the essential amino acids. We covered this one as well too. Here's a nice article. Plant foods have a complete amino acid composition. Now they do have lower concentrations of certain amino acids than animal foods do. However, they have all of them. Okay.
And that varies in the different type of plant protein as well. We just looked at rice. We just looked at black beans. So their lower values, which none of it was below 100%, but their lower values were different. For example, like I think black beans had lower leucine than rice did. I think it was.
Yeah.
So, but it's just it varies. It varies with what you're using. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in and throw that out there, but
No, that's
just
good.
so
That's
you
good.
know.
I have another, let me see.
I guess what I was saying also is that none of those were deficient in an amino acid.
Right.
So deficiency would be like, you know, none. That's
Yeah.
deficient. I don't know
Sure.
why I'm getting so worked up about this, but I am.
It can be frustrating. All right. So we also know that the way that we process foods can change the scores that they're given as well. So this paper here has a few things. So eggs being microwaved, we see that the protein digestibility goes from a 51 to a 91. All right. Canadian cowpeas, if we boil them, the score goes from an 83 to a 98. Same thing for Egyptian cowpeas. That score goes up, right?
That's very interesting that once you because heating them, whether it's by microwave or whatever, is actually called processed.
It's called processing. Yeah.
And so that's weird. That's kind of interesting that those numbers go up.
Yeah.
Digestibility goes up.
We can see chickpeas here. Once you heat them up, those protein scores go up to about 90. All right. And then for our soybeans, raw. And then you can see for all these different processes how that score goes up.
One of the
Let's
arguments
see.
that I was reading about yesterday was also that one of the reasons that digestibility was I don't want to say lower, but not quite what animal-based protein was, is because maybe of the outer skin, outer shell, depending on what protein it was, that is resistant to digestibility. But then when you boil it, it's like boom, all that
Yeah.
goes away. So people
Yeah.
are. I know I have people in my family that are like, "Oh no, no, you should eat it this way." Just, no, I'm gonna boil those beans in a pot of water,
Yeah.
and because they're just better, they just taste better to me, and that also helps digestibility, so I get more out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're getting dry beans and you soak them and you boil them for appropriate amount of time, you're
Yep,
getting
yep,
rid of a bunch, all that stuff that's limiting the digestion, the
yeah,
digestibility of that proteins is going way up. It's, it gets up into the 90s for most of that stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here we have the effects of different types of things. Okay. So foods are rarely consumed raw. Germination, we can see sprouting of seeds. Sprouting significantly increases protein content in seeds. Germination increased true protein digestibility of cooked black beans. Was not accompanied by an increase in PDCAS, though, due to the limiting amino acid score. So even though the total protein goes up for black beans, the PDCAS doesn't go up because that limiting amino acid still doesn't translate to more absorption. All right. So most of the others do, though. The total amount of protein goes up, but it doesn't change the score.
Right.
We have germination of sorghum increased by 21%. Chickpeas and cowpeas increased by 9 to 11% and 11 to 16. Right, that's confusing. Anyway, germination increases chickpeas and beans. Wet or moist thermal treatment, so heat processing, especially moist heat, sometimes improves protein digestibility. Soaking, boiling, microwave cooking, and autoclaving increase total indispensable amino acid content determined in the seeds of cowpeas, peas, and kidney beans.
Yep, yep,
All right. And so
yep.
we have different legumes here. So this is Canadian cowpea. It's all down here at the bottom. Egyptian cowpeas, kidney beans, blah, 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 blah. And so we can see for different things here. So for raw, this is our PDCAS in the red box. For soaking, we can see that for the Canadian kidney beans and the Egyptian kidney beans and these peas goes up. All right. Boiling, which most of us
Boiling.
do, we can see across the board here. So blue means there's really no difference. Green means it goes up. Red means it went down. So we can see that most of the way that we are processing our food. All right. So boiling, soaking, roasting, autoclaving, we could probably, say that's close to like pressure cooking.
Pressure cooker. It's a pressure cooker.
So autoclaving right here, pressure cooking. Look at that.
Yeah.
The digestibility goes up for all of that stuff. Microwaving these things. Microwaving seems to be a fantastic way. All right. And then also fermentation. Fermentation improves everything across the board. All right. Now, when it comes to processing of animal-based foods, we can see essential amino acids in rainbow trout reported to be generally much higher in the raw samples than after smoking and broiling. Broiling reduced digestibility of protein by 1.63 to 3.9%, and smoking decreased it by about 4%. The PDCAS of raw trout was reduced by 6% after smoking and 3% after broiling. Bender, which is another study, showed no change when roasting meat in an open pan at 163 degrees Celsius when the internal temperature didn't get to 80 degrees. And I have seen some other studies where the temperature at which meats are cooked at changes the digestibility of stuff. And basically, overall, you need to be cooking at much lower temperatures. So for those people out there who are buying their cooking oils based on really, really high smoke points, you may want to rethink.
I really don't.
You know what I mean?
I understand the processing of the plant based, but I really can't say that I can wrap. I mean, I read it and I accept it because I can see the data, but I have a hard time wrapping my head around cooking of animal based proteins lowering their digestibility, like salmon. I mean, what is it doing to the salmon that makes it? I mean, what's happening there? Are
So
you?
I
Are
think it
you?
has a lot to do with the proteins that are on the outside. So we all love that crust
Yeah.
that we get when we smoke something or we sear something,
Which is strictly for taste.
which is strictly for taste. So that is limiting.
The
So that's that.
digestibility.
Yeah, the diet. So what's on the outside, the proteins that are on the outside are drastically reduced. So now the total protein content that you have available in that piece is reduced overall,
So
right? So that's why
basically,
you're seeing this decrease.
we're basically doing the flip side of what you do to plant-based. So in
Correct.
plant-based, you're actually softening or decreasing the shield,
Yes. Yes.
the outer
That's a,
skin.
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. 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 Exactly. All right. Oh,
But you got to cook that meat, brother. You can't. You
you
just
have
don't
to
want to be.
cook it. And so
You don't
what
want
I,
to be that
yes.
raw.
So what I've seen for the meat is that like frying stuff in a skillet tends to decrease digestibility. And again, looks, it's not that much. You probably don't need to be concerned about it. Okay. But just, I'm just doing this stuff on the basis to show people this information that you're getting on the internet is from people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So when it comes to cooking stuff, so baking it in the oven, broiling stuff, and as long as you're, low and slow basically seems to be the best way to cook meat.
Yep.
I forget exactly what the temperature was in most of it was in beef, and I think it was like 140 degrees Fahrenheit internal temperature. As long as it didn't get over that, like it seemed to do a little bit better job with the digestibility. Overall, like the scores are still good. All right. So you mentioned at the beginning here, getting enough protein
Mm-hmm.
seems to be what we want to do here. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
go to desktop. And yeah, so when we look at studies where we compare vegan and omnivorous diets and protein and calories are equated, and also protein is sufficient to meet essential amino acid demand and also total protein demand, we find that there's no difference in how much muscle a person can gain or on athletic ability or any of that other stuff. Right. So here's one study. Here's another study. This is the one that we linked to in the first episode. And then we'll go back to our foods here and we can see, so the DAS gives us a total protein recommendation based on kilograms of body weight as well, which the PDCast doesn't, right? It's just kind of like 50 grams is the daily value that will manage to provide 97 to 98% of the population with their protein requirements. So for a good place that people, if you really wanted to be concerned about this, about 0.6 grams per pound of body weight, and I would say lean mass. Okay. If you're walking around at 220 pounds and you're 30%, 35% body fat, you don't need to be accounting for the amino acid, you know, contribution towards your fat mass. You just
Right.
don't need to
Right.
do that.
Right. Right.
So for me, at 185 pounds, 0.6 gram comes out to, a little under 110 grams. So somewhere around 100. And so we can see here, if my protein requirement was 100 grams and I ate 100 grams of just black beans, I would meet all these essential amino acids just fine. Same thing for rice, same thing for lentils, same thing for quinoa, same thing for Quaker oats, same thing for chickpeas, same thing for spinach, right? So 0.6 grams seems to be about where you need to be at. All
So,
right.
yeah, I was going to say that as well, but I've heard as much as zero point 0.8, which for per
Mm.
kilogram.
So
So
point,
I'm like 90, 90.9 kilograms. I'm 200 pounds.
mhm.
So, for if I got, what is that? What's the math? 80, 85
So what are we
is
trying to do?
at point. I'm just looking at zero point 0.8 times 90.9. So that's 72. So 72.
70.
And if I did
Yes.
if I did zero point 0.6, then I'm at
Oh, well, you multiplied the wrong.
54. What did I do?
So you're doing, so you do
I'm
it in
saying point
pounds.
0.6. No,
Point
no, I'm doing
six.
no, I'm doing kilograms.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. No, no.
90.9 kilograms.
Yeah. You can't do 0.6 times kilograms. It'd be per pound. So point 0.6 times 200 would be 120.
Okay, cool. There you go. My
120
bad.
grams of protein. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
So if you got 120 grams of protein, that would
Which isn't
be,
difficult.
which isn't difficult. We are about
Not
to go.
hard.
Yeah. We are about to go through some stuff here. Okay. And I will try to make these recipes available to people because these actually end up being pretty good days of eating. So we're going to go through some individual recipes here for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For a vegan diet versus an omnivorous diet, both of these are similar to each other, as similar as I could make them, and they're both very healthy. And we're going to go through this. So the first one we have here is a tofu scramble. Tofu scramble. Sorry.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah. So we're at right about 500 calories, 49 grams of protein. And we can scroll all the way down here to our amino acids. And we can see that we are already filling up quite a few of these individual amino acids, right? So cysteine, plants are generally pretty low on that cysteine and I think methionine. Yeah, those seem to be the trouble areas. All right. So, but just for a breakfast thing, this is looking not too bad. All right. You do want to make sure that you are getting some portion of each of these amino acids for the day. So let's say you ate 3 times a day. So 100 divided by 3, what is that, 36 or 33?
33.
Yeah, 33.
33.3.
So your bare minimum is you want at least 30 to 35-ish% of each of these amino acids at each meal. Okay. So it is important that you get these throughout the day each time you're eating. You can't just store them up, right? And be like, well, at the end of the day, I'm good. So even for cysteine, we're at 34%.
34%. Yep.
So we're on target. Okay.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Let me move this fella out the way. And then on the other side here, we're going to look at an omnivorous version of this. So I've got an egg white scramble here. All right. Just about 500 calories, 43-ish grams of protein. And we come on down and we can see that this one is better on the amino acids. It is, right? Yes, animal sources of protein are going to have more amino acids. That's why they have higher scores. Okay. But that doesn't mean that the other one doesn't contribute or meet my needs. All right. So let's look at an omnivorous lunch. So we've got a burger meal here. This is a burger with a sweet potato. I wonder if it'll, now I'll have to go. All right, but this is a burger with a sweet potato and some baked beans. And so basically what I've done is I've kept most of the ingredients the same for all of these meals. All I've done is change the protein source between an animal or a plant-based. All right, and in this meal, we're at 670 calories, right about 40 grams of protein. And we come down and we look at our amino acid scores. So the lowest one here being cysteine, but still 42%, right? So you can see even for a burger, right, that individual meal isn't giving me 100% of all of this stuff. Cysteine is still a limiting factor here. Let's go back to our other one. We're going to clear that. And we are going to add our Beyond Burger meal. And this is the exact same meal. All the stuff is the same. It's a whole grain bun, Dave's Killer Bread. It's fantastic. Highly recommend
Love
it.
Dave's. Love Dave's.
All right, 35 grams of protein in this one. And we can see we're still looking good, man. Cysteine, we still got 36% there. So an appropriate amount of amino acids. And our last meal for the day, we got a Tom Yum. This one is going to be tofu. This has mushrooms and rice noodles and all kinds of stuff. So we're at 790 calories, 53 grams of protein. And look at that amino acid score. Wowza.
Yeah. Wow.
Pretty good, huh?
Yep. Yep.
All right, so we're going to look at tom yum in this one, and this is I swapped the tofu for shrimp. You can put other stuff in there. I just think that the tom yum is better with shrimp. Also, it allowed me to get the calories and everything closer. So 770 calories, 63 grams of protein, so a little bit higher than our other one. And we come down. Look at that. Boom.
Yeah. Look at that cysteine number, 86%.
Yeah. So good stuff all around. All right. We're meeting all of our essential amino acid needs at each meal for both of these, for both a vegan diet and an omnivorous diet.
Yeah.
All right. So let's look at the whole day for both of these. So this is our vegan day of eating. No animal products in here whatsoever. So the whole day, right under 2,000 calories, 137 grams of protein. And so for me, so we're talking about these, how much grams you need. So 0.6, if you get 0.6 grams per pound of lean body mass, okay. Now, if you are of a healthy body fat percentage, you could just do total weight. But if you're, if you are overweight, you do have some extra fat on there, I would just go ahead and calculate for your
0.6. Yeah.
ideal
Yeah.
body weight. So 0.6 times your ideal body weight or a healthy body weight and figure it out from there. Okay. So for me, I want to build muscle. So that means that protein synthesis is maximized around 0.7 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So 185 times 0.7 gives me 130. All right. So I'm meeting my goals for the day for protein to maximize protein, muscle protein synthesis. And that's not to say that if you ate more protein, you wouldn't see more benefit. You will. It just that there becomes what's the phrase? Right. It just kind of starts to cap off at that 0.7. So once you go above that 0.8, 0.9, 1 gram per pound, yeah, you do see more.
The benefit curve.
Yeah.
The
You do
benefit
see
curve falls
more.
off.
It
Yeah.
just it doesn't equate to the same level, right? So 0.7 seems to be kind of a better place to be than those higher. It's also easier to reach. All
Yeah.
right, so 130 grams for the day for me. I'm getting 137.6 out of this day. Let's go to our omnivorous meal. All right, so slightly lower in calories. So we're just under 2,000. We're getting 145 grams of protein for the day. Not bad. Let's get down here. Okay, so for all targets, 85% in my omnivorous meals, 89% in my vegan meals. We can see my fiber. Look at all these green circles in the vegan
Holy
diet.
cow. Holy cow.
All right, over here, fiber is 96%. So even though that circle is yellow, it's still 96%, right? Calcium, 93%. And, you could drink some milk or something, add a little more cheese or whatever you want. So this one, the omnivorous group, the egg scramble, I think was the only thing that was, the ingredients weren't all the way the similar. This did have cheese in it, had one whole egg and then a cup of egg whites. And I'll make the recipes available to everybody. All right. So, but we can see nutrition overall is more than just protein.
Is that the plant-based right there?
This is the plant-based.
Okay.
This is the vegan. Okay. All right, so we'll scroll down here and we're looking at the carbs here. So fiber, there's about 49 grams of fiber in the vegan meal, 37 in the omnivores. This is still great, right? This is still a good amount of fiber.
Still good. Still
B
good.
vitamins in the omnivorous group here. So biotin, 77%. Yeah, not bad. We can see vitamin E and vitamin K, 44%, 55%. Let's look over here. B vitamins in the vegan.
What's the red line on the niacin?
So that just means that it's 441%. So the niacin intake for the day is probably a little bit high, according to the RDA, right? Not to say that that's going to lead to downstream bad effects because you're just going to pee that out.
I was going to say it's a B, so you're gonna offload
Yeah.
whatever you don't use. Did you see the calcium number, by the way? Just throwing
Hmm.
that out there.
Yeah.
So in the
Calcium.
yeah, so the calcium is great on both of them, but the animal base was what, like 300 and something percent. No, right there, 335. Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
Where are you seeing calcium?
Right there in the circle. Come back up. Vitamin C, 335.
Well, calcium in the omnivorous in the animal
I'm
base was
sorry.
not.
I meant no,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
calcium.
vitamin
I
C.
meant vitamin C. Vitamin
Okay.
C right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
335. Yeah. And so these are healthy meals that I put together. So the vegan meals are actually meals that I am consuming probably 2 or 3 times a week right now. And so I put together an omnivorous version of that is still a healthy meal.
Yeah.
Okay. So you could still consume animal pro and right and you're getting quite a few nutrients here. Yeah, so vitamin C 335%. What is it in over here? Vitamin C 105%.
Oh, oh my gosh, you're getting all your calcium. I mean, all
Uh,
your vitamin
all your
C.
vitamin C.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so we go through B vitamins on both of them are pretty good. Interestingly enough here, choline on a vegan diet, you can still get sufficient choline.
Yeah.
All right. We see vitamin E and vitamin K much higher in the vegan diet than this
Oh yeah.
omnivorous. And this is just
Yep.
one day, so it doesn't mean anything. But um, yeah, let's go down here. Our minerals, calcium, copper. Now, both of these are deficient in iodine. So something that would be added that I didn't add in here would be a salt with iodine added to it. So table salt, iodized table salt, and that will chalk up your iodine scores just fine. Iron, magnesium, blah, blah, blah. And then sodium intake for the day. So this is, it's a little bit high. Um, the burger meal contributes a little more than you would like. Tom Yum is a little high, but it's still right around that 2,300 milligrams a day.
In the vegan?
In the vegan, it's 1654. And a lot of that contribution is coming from the shrimp in the
Yeah,
tom
yeah,
yum.
yeah,
So that, you could swap that out for something else, lower that
yeah.
amount down
So
just fine.
so what we're looking at right now is the animal base, right?
No, this is the vegan.
Okay, this is the vegan. I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Look at those proteins. Bingo, all
Yeah.
green lines. Beautiful.
Yeah. We go, yeah. Let's look at the proteins. That's what we're here for. Proteins, everything is green for the day.
Yep.
All of it. Right. And then the same thing over here. Everything is green for the day. Now, some people might say, well, these numbers, they're, 3 and 400%, and some of these are lower. Therefore, the animal base is going to be better. Well, no, that's not really how that works either.
Right.
As far
Right.
as these essential amino acids go, there seems to kind of be a cap. And once you meet that threshold, anything over and above that doesn't confer added benefit.
Right. It's
It,
going to
it
get up.
it's just about meeting a threshold.
Right.
Uh, yeah. So some of these minerals that people are concerned with. So iron, 215% on the omnivorous diet, 388 on the vegan.
Yeah.
Right. So we can see you can meet all of these things. And then our fats, going into our fats here. So remember how I said I'm always surprised how much saturated fat I can get for the day.
Yes.
So
I saw
13
that. Yeah.
grams, like you would be really shocked at how much is in tofu. So even
Yeah.
between those two, the Beyond Burger has 6. All right. So 13 grams of saturated fat in my vegan meal, 10 grams saturated fat in my omnivorous diet here. Okay. So well below the 10% that is recommended. Okay,
Right.
so very heart healthy diet. Now big difference here, we can see omega 3s in the
Yeah. Yeah.
omnivorous diet, 94, in the vegan diet, 253%.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Uh good amount of omega 6s, and then trans fats is 0 here, and then it's 0.8, so well below anything recommended.
Right.
Okay. So we can see that in terms of this nonsense about digestibility. You don't need to concern yourself with that. What you need to concern yourself with is getting 0.6 grams per pound of body weight or higher in total protein for the day, and you're just fine. It doesn't matter what
Yes.
it doesn't matter what you eat. Just make
Yes.
sure you're getting that much. And as we can see, like, yeah, you know, for most people, that's pretty attainable to do.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. So
Boom.
hopefully, yeah, hopefully this is clear to all you guys. You have some information now that you can maybe impress your friends when you're all sitting around talking about this at a party one day. No one
Yeah.
talks about
Yeah.
this.
Well, they might. It depends on what kind of
Yeah.
circle they are. Just, none of the circles I run in. But another thing that I think we really ought to highlight again is that you can go off of the data on the
Yeah. On the
nutrition
package.
label on the package because you just can. You don't have to walk through with your calculator and be doing PDCAS or you
Yeah.
have to do that.
It's more than sufficient
Yes.
um to for you to meet your goals. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And we proved that just with data. So
Yeah.
and that's what we do here on Working Weights LLC.
That's what we do here.
Boom.
So, all right, not only have we dispelled this notion that you can't get adequate protein on a plant-based diet or by including plant-based sources of, so we are constantly recommending, hey, trade some of your red meat out for some of these other things like plant-based meat alternatives. And then you're going to hear somebody online going, well, you're not going to get all the protein out of that because it's from plants. It's not as digestible. It's a bunch
Untrue.
of baloney. They don't know what they're talking about. All you need to concern yourself with is getting enough protein every day. And as long as you're meeting that 0.6 grams or above, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, cool. Well, let's cut this off. This is probably longer than it needed to be.
I think it was all good stuff, though. I mean, we didn't belabor any one point, and we weren't like driving the nail on the side of somebody's head. So, and before you ask, no, my mind wasn't blown.
Mm.
My eyes were open in several spots, but hey, I did my homework, man.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
so proud.
we've
Poppy
already
Twirl
been
can
through this.
read.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything's mind-blowing. Hey, how about this mustache?
I'm digging it.
Is it coming in?
I'm digging it, man. That
Starting to
thing
get
is thick.
cumbersome.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that's the worst. Do you wake up sometimes in the morning with your beard? And I've got one that's sticking out here, and I
Oh,
don't care
all
how
the
much beard
time.
how much beard oil you put on there. That puppy is not laying down. So you know
Yeah.
what? I'm sorry. I'm not. Pow! Whip that
Yeah.
puppy off of there. Has to be
Yeah.
taught a lesson, man.
I'll get them. I'll get them sometimes catfishing me in the nose here.
Oh my gosh, that's the worst.
Ah!
That's the worst, man.
Yeah.
Always
So.
makes you cry too.
Yeah. All right. Well, no blowing minds today, but hopefully you guys got something out of this. I will make those recipes available to you because as you can see, either way, those are a pretty good day of eating for anybody.
Absolutely.
All right. Under
Absolutely.
2,000 calories, 135 grams of protein and up. You're meeting all of your daily needs. So very, very nutritionally adequate either way. And you guys can, incorporate some of one side of that and some of the other, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Good stuff.
All right. Well, we will see you guys next time. Coach Lamby and Poppy Dwirl out.
See you guys.